Well, Liquidambar Styraciflua. That might not be a cuss word where you come from, but it is for a lot of people across the southeastern United States. Good afternoon and welcome to 15 Minutes in the Forest. I'm Neil Clark, District Forestry Extension Agent for Southeast Virginia. Today we're talking about Sweetgum. It is a very predominant tree across the Virginia, the coastal plain and Piedmont of Virginia, and also across the southeast United States. Sweetgum is a pioneer species, a very prolific seed producer, as well as more importantly perhaps in stands of regenerating stands of cut over land. Stump sprouters, and not only stump sprouters but also root sprouting species. So you cut one tree and you get 60 to 80 feet of sprouts around that stump. So Sweetgum, you love it or you hate it. And unfortunately there are many reasons from the utilization standpoint that we don't like it as much. It's not terribly useful for many products. Fine for pulpwood, can be used some in dimensional products. However, it does not dry easily. It tends to want to warp quite a bit when drying. So again, many other species would fit that niche much better than Sweetgum. Has a pretty good growth rate. So at some points in the past, some pulpwood companies had tried to look at Sweetgum as a possible source of hardwood pulp for copy papers that were being made at the time. The fiber had a good ink holding characteristic that it liked, and so it was looking at potentially planting this species for pulp purposes. However, it's very plentiful across the landscape and really not any need to help it along, as it will compete just fine on most sites. There are about 15 species of Liquidambar worldwide, and only one really native and existing in North America. Sweetgum, to most folks who are familiar with it, is very distinctive. Star-shaped leaf. The textbooks say 5 to 7 lobe leaf. I've mostly only seen 5 lobed leaves in the trees that I've looked at across my region. But it has, each lobe is fairly triangular and almost even in size, as opposed to something else you might possibly confuse it with, like a maple leaf, something that might have 5 palmately ranged veins in the leaf that go down the lobes. In a maple or something like that, usually the apical lobes, the top lobes, are more dominant, and side lobes are really reduced. Additionally, as an added help if needed, the margins of a Sweetgum leaf are serrate, so there are fine teeth along the margins, which you wouldn't find in other palmately veined 5-lobed leaves. Sweetgum thrives on alluvial soils in wet areas, and usually with some domination of clay. Those soils are also typically a little more acidic, although I haven't seen pH come into the literature quite as dominant as the fact that the soil, Sweetgum thrives more in moist areas. And as you can see with the range of the Sweetgum, in the cooler and drier climates that in Virginia happen to also be associated with more alkaline soils, sweet gum becomes less competitive and starts to shift out of range. But definitely dominant in the coastal plain, and particularly dominant cover type in the Mississippi Delta area. And some sites in the Mississippi Delta area that are pure can carry as much as 20 to 40,000 board feet per acre. Thus, some emphasis is being placed in utilizing sweet gum as a carbon storage. The lifespan of mature sweet gum can be into the couple 100-year range. That wouldn't be typical to see in Virginia just due to utilization, but it is noted in the literature, and we do have some older trees. In fact, the state champion sweet gum tree is in my home county of Southampton. It was a national champion up until about 2018. The tree is 202 inches in circumference and 140 feet tall. For more information about Virginia big trees, we have a video in our 15 Minutes in the Forest video series, as well as just use your search engine to look up Virginia Big Tree Database, and it will take you to that website where you can look for that particular tree I mentioned and many others that are large specimens. Being a pioneer species, the sweet gum tree typically grows in an excurrent form, which means it has a dominant central leader, much like a pine tree or perhaps a yellow poplar in the hardwood realm. See both sweet gum and yellow poplar taking a early jump start out of a lot of these regenerative cutover lands here in the coastal plain and Piedmont of Virginia. And many times, again, they will both thrive, and both species do fairly well at self-pruning, which means shedding their lower limbs, which probably also adds to their excurrent form. However, you will see that the taper of the sweet gum is much more severe than that of the yellow poplar. The yellow poplar is more cylindrical, a bowl form, and the sweet gum would be more conical in form, where the base of the tree to a point higher on the stem would have a much more severe taper, whereas yellow poplar will tend to be fairly straight and even until you get to the crown. In the older age, sometimes sweet gum does give up that excurrent characteristic and starts to become more decurrent, and thus growing more canopy and larger branches from the side. That may have to do with the chemistry of the tree, may also have to do with the lack of competition from other trees. So we've talked about a few negatives from the utilization side. Unfortunately, there are also a few negatives from the homeowner and yard tree side, and that has more to do with the nice little fruits of the sweet gum, with many of them referring them to as yard Lego, which are these 1-inch balls, which are aggregate clusters of the seed capsules. And each of those capsules hold 2 very small seeds. And so those gumballs, of course, in the yard setting, get there, and of course, if you happen to be bare feet in your yard, are very painful to step on. And then, of course, if you have a large number of them and your yard is your soil is firm, they could also be like walking on marbles.
There are foliar sprays or systemic injections that can be applied by arborists in the springtime that prevent flowering and thus will prevent the gumballs. But the timing for both of these methods is fairly critical, and you just have to ask yourself if the cost for those efforts is worth the return of having a clean yard.
As a third approach, and if you have an energetic grandchild, you can get them one of the basket style pecan pickers, and make a game out of it and have them run around and see how many gumballs they can collect in 20 minutes. Lumbermen and woodworkers often refer to sweet gum as red gum or sap gum, depending on the amount of heartwood in the piece of wood that they're looking at. The inner part, the heartwood, after it has collected the minerals that it would collect to give it its color, obviously has a red appearance. And the outer part, the younger part, it's more white in appearance than would be the sapwood. Some products, after they are sawn and dried, then all of a sudden that wood then becomes named satin walnut on the sales floor. The more common use, perhaps, of the sweet gum is to modify it while it's still wet. The peeling veneer off for the use in plywood is a common purpose, and some plywoods do very well with sweet gum as one of the core pieces, as it has good nail holding abilities. Another specialty use of sweet gum or red gum would be in turnings. Many wood turners prize a spalted red gum chunk of wood. Often makes some spectacular colors and patterns. So let's look on the positive side a little bit. What do people enjoy about sweet gum? It does turn a very nice shade of red in the fall. It's a little early here now, but you can see a few of the leaves here on the edge starting to turn. Turns a brilliant red in the fall. And many appreciate its pyramidal or conical form and love its aesthetics. So a hybrid has been developed known as Rotunda loba that is being broadly employed in urban and landscape settings. Of course, if you omit the gumballs, then you also omit the other positive for the sweet gum, which is its use for wildlife. It's a great wildlife tree for songbirds particularly. Those two little seeds that form in the gumball capsules are fairly easily accessed by many small songbirds, such as finches, particularly finches, juncos, titmice, wrens, towhees, which will land on the gumballs in the fall time when the capsules open, and they'll dance around on the little gumballs and pluck out those seeds. It's been said also that chipmunks and squirrels utilize those seeds. I can't see for an animal that size that the cost is worth it, but they must taste good, because you do see frequently in some settings those gumballs definitely being torn apart by squirrels trying to get at the seeds. In addition to the seeds, the foliage also plays host to many larval moths, including the Luna, Promethea, Regal, and Imperial moths.
So here's my final rundown of things to love and to hate about sweet gum trees. Probably situational. If you can have some that are not right in your yard near the edge of the suburban landscape, where you can watch the songbirds and small animals and enjoy the aesthetic, while at the same time not having to deal with the gumballs in your yard, or competing with other valuable trees you are hoping to grow for income, then Sweetgum can find some limited valuable places amongst the landscape. Just keep them out of our productive timberland.